A $75 three-way speaker that doesn't suck? Yeah, it exists. It's not all roses and gravy, though. Today, we're talking about the Moukey three-way passive speaker. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about this little three-way bookshelf speaker. Today's sponsor is Salazar's Fine Wrestling Implements. If you're a fan of the channel at all, you may remember that Salazar's Fine Wrestling Implements was our first ever sponsor. Well, they're back. From tights to masks to chalk to knee pads, Salazar's Fine Wrestling Implements has you covered. They've done it the right way from the beginning. Quality, family, honor. Those are the Salazar's Fine Wrestling Implements motto. Salazar's Fine Wrestling Implements is part of the Salazar Cinderblock Manufacturing family of companies. The Moukey three-way speaker. I had zero expectations of this speaker, and they didn't send it to me. I bought this off Amazon, and I was a little bit leery because I reviewed the three-way, which looks identical to this, powered version, and I didn't like it at all. But this little guy, $75 on Amazon. It has a 1-inch soft dome tweeter, a 2-inch mid-range driver, looks like a little woofer, and then a 5 1/4-inch woofer. Paper. Everything's paper, except for the tweeter. It's some type of soft dome. On the back, there is a keyhole holder. Hold on, let me show you. And then some little pushy speaker binding posts. Oh, I almost set it on the driver. But I was able to fit some banana plugs. I just shoved them in the bottom there. Pushed it down, shoved the banana plug in, and I was just fine. Specifications. And I actually think these are pretty accurate. So it has a nominal impedance of 4 ohms. Okay? It's pretty low. Sensitivity. Are you ready for this one? 81 dB. I think that is the least sensitive speaker I have ever reviewed. And then the frequency response is rated down to 60 up to 15,000 hertz. And I believe that. I think I heard 60 out of this. Not really loud, but I heard 60. The electronics that I used to test the Moukey three-way passive speaker were the, the IEMA A300 was the amplifier, and then I had the Gashelli Labs J2 running into that as my premium system. As a more affordable system, I had the IEMA T8, not to be confused with the T9, which I just did that review. I love that product. The T8 is a headphone amp. It's a DAC. It has a tube in it, and it's a preamp of sorts. It does allow you to connect an RCA input into it, as well as coax, digital optical, and then USB, full-size USB. It's a nice little product. It's $130. So that's $130. The IEMA A07 is $70 to $80, so we're at $210. Plus these, which are $75. So all in, that system is less than $300. Pretty good too. The room that I decided to test these in was my office, right here. The reason being is I don't think these are meant to be in a giant living room. I don't think they're really meant to be in a big room at all. I think, and I know, that they live either in a desktop situation or a small room, maybe a kitchen setup, something like that. Don't think that these are going to act like a huge speaker, because they are not. I will cover that a little bit later in the review, though. This is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk about 5 things I love about this speaker, and it looks like 5 things I don't love about this speaker. Number 1 that I love, it's $75. Come on, $75 for any pair of speakers, period, is pretty good if they sound decent. This is a true three-way speaker, and I know that because when I started messing around with tone controls, the vocals stayed at the same level. Tweeter went up, or the treble went up, the bass went up, or it went down as I messed around with the tone controls. I can't believe that there is actually a working crossover in here, but there is. And the frequency response is actually pretty good. I didn't feel like it was really bumped on top or bumped in the bass or rolled off on the bass. I thought things were pretty flat, which is amazing. $75 for a pair of three-way speakers that don't suck. The only other three-way speakers I've had in here, besides like good ones. I'm not saying this isn't good. Okay, sorry. More expensive three-way speakers that I've had in here are the ELAC Unify series, the Lintons from Wharfedale, and then the Evo 4.2 from Wharfedale, and then tower speakers that have, you know, more than one driver. But as far as bookshelf speakers, oh, I also had the Yamaha, and that was my point. The Yamaha three-way speakers that I had in here, I think were 125, 150 a pair, and they were truly abysmal. They were one of the worst speakers that I've ever heard. These are not. Number two, reason why I like this speaker, or love this speaker, vocal clarity. Amazing, amazing vocal clarity. There Will Be Time by Mumford & Sons. I think his name is Baba Mall, and then the regular Mumford & Son guy that looks like, I don't know, he dresses very nicely. Has vests, tweed jackets, things like that. They're snappy dressers over there at Mumford & Sons. Anyway, his voice, their voices were remarkably clear. There's also some bumping of, like, I would assume music stands or something at the beginning of the song, and it came in perfectly clear. I was amazed. Female vocals, Hello, I almost said Adele by Hello. Hello by Adele. Wonderful. And there was breath sounds. There was reverb, which is more to do with the treble. But vocal clarity was truly amazing on these speakers. And overall clarity was amazing. Amazing. I had zero expectations. I thought this thing was not going to be good at all. They proved me wrong. Maybe. Not in all situations, but most situations they proved me wrong. Number 3, Soundstage and Imaging. Wow. You know, when I had the Yamahas, they were really abysmal. But these things actually have offset mid-range drivers, which means there is a right and a left speaker. They are not identical. The Yamahas, on the other hand, were identical. So Soundstage and Imaging was never really good. Nothing was really good about that speaker at all. It didn't look good from 10 feet away, I suppose. But Soundstage and Imaging is very excellent. Travel, chocolate chip trip, right to left, seamless. Center imaging is also locked in, and it was above the speaker, which is pretty cool. I don't often hear center imaging or vocals above the speaker, but in this case, I did. The vocals are pretty much in line, slightly forward than the rest of the soundstage, which makes sense when you have a dedicated mid-range driver. I don't know how they did the crossover, but I assumed that there would be, I actually thought there would be really forward vocals, and thank goodness there weren't. They are still in front of the speakers. However, when you start to play around with the tone controls, and that's why I know this is a true three-way and it has a crossover for the mid-range driver, is that when I played with tone controls, those vocals would come back. If I turned up the treble and I turned up the bass, then things would come back in line. So it depends on what you want. Remarkably, this speaker is going to be very good for acoustic type of music, singer-songwriter, or for any music where you want a bit of a forward presentation in the mid-range. Remarkable soundstage and imaging. Now, with that said, I was in my office, so I was able to get up into these a little bit. But most of my listening was done kind of in the equilateral triangle, which means if you have the speakers 5 feet apart, you sit 5 foot back like a triangle. And this soundstage and imaging was still incredible. As I got into them, the soundstage and imaging was even better. Really, again, shocked and surprised. The 5th reason why I love them. Why I love those speakers, these speakers, the three-way by Moukey, their versatility. With the keyhole hanger, these are perfect for surrounds. They're also perfect for a desktop situation where you don't have a lot of room on your desk. You can hang them on the wall, because even with them towed straight out or pointing straight out into the room, the soundstage and imaging was still really remarkable. If you do have them hanging on a wall and you do want a little bit of a toe in, and I've done this before on a lot bigger speakers, you can just build up one of the sides on the back with a little bit of foam bumpers or rubber bumpers like they have on the bottom here. You can just put those on one side and you can kind of build them up. to, and what it will do is it'll tweak it in a little bit. So you do have some options if you want to play around with toe-in if you have these hanging on the wall. The front port is awesome on this because you're not going to muddy up anything by having them hanging on the wall, and the bass level isn't really that great that's going to start covering up the mids. However, stick around because there is some issues with the bass. Number 6 reason why I love these speakers. Crossover's well done. I didn't pull them apart. Why? Because I didn't feel like I needed to pull them apart. Yes, I'm sure that the components in the crossover are not that great on a $75 speaker. It doesn't matter. I don't care. However they did it, it works. They send the high frequencies to the tweeter. They send the middle frequencies to the mid-range driver. They send the low frequencies to the woofer. Therefore, it's done well. And with the sensitivity of 81, it means they really push down the sensitivity of the tweeter and the mid-range driver to match that of the woofer. And that's why this has a pretty decent frequency response. However they did the crossover in this speaker is well done. It does what it's supposed to do. And again, I am blown away at how flat I feel or I hear this frequency. I thought these were going to be super shouty. I thought they were going to be unbearable to listen to because I have the powered version in my garage and I don't like them at all. And it's the exact same speaker, I think, just with an amplifier stuck inside. So I did not have high hopes for this. I thought it was, I thought the mid-range was going to be horrible. And it's not. The first reason why I don't love these speakers. However, if you're new here, consider subscribing and liking the video. You may want to turn on bell notifications so that you know when all my new videos and community posts go up, because I often post a lot of sales in my community section. So you may be able to get a very good deal on something if you subscribe, like the video, and then turn on bell notifications. Okay, first reason why I don't love this speaker. At about 82 dB, that's sound pressure level or listening level, and you can figure that out. Just download a free decibel meter on your phone. Your phone becomes the microphone because, well, it has a microphone in it, and it will tell you. So if you are listening to music and you're, okay, I like this level, pull that up and then you can see what level that actually is. These start to fall apart about 82 dB and above. Now, if there's a bass hit or something briefly goes into the mid 80s, it's fine. But these speakers really live and sound their best 70 to 80 dB. Again, you can have a little bit of spike in there, but they start to fall apart. Mid-range does start to get shouty. Treble starts to get very tinny. So any type of instrument separation really starts to be lost. 80 to 90, really, you can't expect these things to hit 85 to 90 dB sustained levels. You just can't. They will start to fall apart. To be fair though, even expensive bookshelf speakers at about 85 dB to 90 dB can start to fall apart as well. Number 2 reason why I don't love these speakers, or really these are what I wish was better. But again, we have to have reasonable expectations. The woofer, big bass hits, I felt like it was bottoming out. And again, I don't think we can really expect this thing to not need a subwoofer at $75 for a 3-way. But I can tell that the bass driver really is limited in its build quality with big bass hits. The third reason why I don't love the speaker, or what I wish was better, is the enclosure. A smaller enclosure just by design usually is better braced than a larger enclosure, but when I hit the side of this, I still feel a little, and hear a little hollowiness. And when I turn up the bass on these with tone controls, I started to hear the bass started covering up the mids. And I think this enclosure is starting to really vibrate. Again, we've got to have reasonable expectations, and if you really want to, you can probably pull the woofer, get in here and glue some braces inside. I just feel like this thing could be braced a little bit better. If you don't boost the bass and you keep these at reasonable listening levels, I don't think it's going to be a problem. But you try to crank them up and you're going to hear the limitations of the enclosure and really the speaker itself. Fourth reason why I don't love this speaker, treble. Even at lower levels, it still is a bit brief. It's good, it's clear, but cymbal decay, cymbals don't hang out in the air. I did hear, and you will hear, some reverb with voices and breath sounds with this speaker, but things are a little bit brief. Harvester of Sorrow by Metallica really seemed like, I don't know, white noise piped in at the right time at the right frequency. I wish it was a little bit better. But when you're jamming 3 drivers into this thing and a crossover, really, what can we expect? Final thoughts on the Moukey 3-way passive bookshelf speaker is I'm amazed. If you don't listen super loud, if you're in a small room, if you're using these for a desktop situation, I don't think you can possibly go wrong with these. I really don't. I'm shocked. I was shocked by their 2-way speaker. I'm even more shocked by this because it's only about $10 more for acoustic music or stuff that's not super dynamic. I think you'll be blown away by how good these things are. Rock and roll, metal, rap, you're going to have to listen at lower volumes. But all in all, amazing. And these do scale with electronics. Really, I think any speaker scales with electronics. When I had these hooked up to the IEMA A300, which is $175, and the Geshelli Labs J2, which is $250 without a USB, $300 with a USB, I did notice a fairly significant clarity improvement as well as a soundstage improvement. On the T8, which is the little preamp, and the A07, which is a little speaker amplifier, I didn't hear as much clarity. It still was remarkably awesome, but I didn't hear as much clarity from higher priced electronics, which makes sense. However, all in, you can get the T8, the A07, and these for less than $300. And they sound very, very good for $300. I'm blown away how good these are. Just try them out. If you're at all interested, if you have a desktop situation. Now, some Class D amplifiers are not going to play well with these. I think the IEMA stuff plays very well with these because it has a more neutral presentation. Any electronics that have a lean in the mid-range are going to be too much. It's not going to be a great combination. But the DO3 from IEMA, the A07, A08, T9, which you can't get right now, any of those are going to be a great combination with these. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group and Discord server. You can also use the links to buy these speakers. Those are affiliate links, which means if you click and you buy something, I will get a commission. You can also sign up for Amazon Music or Tidal Music, links in the description and the pinned comment. If you click on those links and sign up, even for a trial, I'll get a couple of dollars. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen through the remarkably cheap Moukey 3-way passive speakers and fill your soul with happiness. With that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.